Hi, everybody. This is Bruce Edwards, your instructor for C.S. Lewis, Lit 254. And I appreciate your patience this weekend. A number of things came together to blunt my momentum toward putting together what I would prefer to have been a more comprehensive response verbally to some of the fine writing you did online this weekend. But I'll have plenty of time, and you will have plenty of time to interact with me over the next 14 or 15 weeks. So do appreciate your prayers for my friend and colleague and brother in Christ, Terrence Armentano. I just want to say briefly that I'm sure your prayers have been making a difference. He had a really tough weekend, and he's in the Cleveland Clinic. They're still trying to diagnose whether this is a brand of meningitis or encephalitis. So do keep praying for him, and I will occasionally update you on that. This is the great thing about having a class full of Christians, that you can speak your heart, talk about what's important, and enlist your help. So thank you for all that. Let me just briefly categorize some things that I want to speak to, both some responses to the forum questions and answers, something about our ongoing plans for bringing together in real time a few chats, both video and then just through text. And then just a glance ahead to the next several weeks of reading Lewis's fiction. Still with me? Okay, here we go. As you can tell, I think that Lewis's essay, Meditation in a Toolshed, is foundational to his thought. And it's very helpful to us and crucial to us in being able to appropriate his distinctions as well as his exposition of looking at and looking along. And I hinted in some of my responses to your very straightforward and prosaic approaches to Lewis's essay that there's more going on here that has far-reaching consequences, I think, for how we read Lewis, how we actually read anyone or anything, and actually how we negotiate the world in which God has placed us. And so let me just annotate that essay this way. I think we'll find that the looking at, looking along categories may appear in Lewis's works, both fiction and nonfiction, in different guises, but I think you'll be able to recognize them, especially, of course, if you're looking for them. And there are going to be ways that I'll be looking for you to employ and deploy this distinction that Lewis is making for us. But I want you to see the genius of Lewis in this essay is in implying and allowing us to infer without ever having to come out and very explicitly say, this is a biblical worldview, or this is a post-fallen worldview that we have to rely upon because we're not as directly and firmly in Eden anymore. And so we're post-Eden, and so we rely on the wit and cunning that God has given us. But there's a third thing here, that even when we look at and look along, we're not looking at and along exhaustively, because we're not capable of ultimate knowledge. We're fallen, we're finite, and although we're headed toward being incorruptible and prepared for a heavenly existence, we're not there yet. And so the third thing, the overlay that referees between looking at and looking along, is revelation. And that's the unspoken referee in Lewis's essay, because what Lewis does is he always pushes us, not so much in answering questions, though he does that in, for instance, Mere Christianity. He's actually pushing us to asking better questions. And so the most skillful response to meditation and toolshed from Lewis's point of view is, well, at and along our marvelous perspectives that fill in the gaps as we're negotiating the world and fitting it into our worldview, or finding our worldview under attack by what is happening to us and what we're doing in relation to the world acting upon us. Where do we go for that referee? Where do we go to tell us when to look at and use the knowledge derived from looking at over and above the knowledge derived from looking along? So what Lewis tries to do, and he does this in Narnia, and he'll do it again and again in the Space Trilogy, he'll certainly do it in The Great Divorce, the Screwtape Letters, is force us to ask the better question, the transcendent question: how do I decide between these ways of knowing, these epistemologies? And as I said, this is a very humble, very homely little essay, but he's talking about profound things. And the thought I want to leave you with is that notice that when God's Son, the second person of the Trinity, comes to earth as a human being, as he's born of Mary and Joseph, that he has ultimate knowledge. He has encyclopedic understanding of the universe he, in fact, has made. But he also is gaining a long knowledge, incarnational knowledge. It's not enough for God to become one of us. He also has to live among us and demonstrate his empathy and his love. And this is where the long knowledge comes in, and the epitome of it, and the glorious, greatest exemplar of it is Jesus of Nazareth, Emmanuel, God in the flesh. And so even in an essay, what you might say a throwaway essay, a weekend essay, a blog entry, like Meditation of Toolshed, Lewis is using to force us into some choices about worldview. And we'll develop this thought, and I know that you will see where this is going, but I did want you to climax the weekend with that sort of conclusion about how Lewis is leading us and helping us and pastoring us toward better, more refined, and more spiritual ways of comprehending the experience and the knowledge that God is bringing to us. Well, let me pause there then and just talk about some things I'd like you to be prepared to do over the next several weeks. First of all, please read What Makes a Good Post Good. And it's similar in content to the posting that I have on what makes a good paper good. But I want you to really reach out in answering questions and not just settle for the facts, so to speak, but I want you to invest yourself in the reading and enlarge the question I've asked and respond to each other's answers to these questions and get a dialogue going. Now, some of you may want to do that in a more electronic environment besides Twitter. And I will be setting up some of those for weeks 2 and 3 of the Space Trilogy, Paralandra, Out of the Silent Planet, That Hideous Strength. But for Out of the Silent Planet, I'd like you to go a little deeper beyond. And you'll see one question posted in the forum that I say debate. And I want you to take that question and defend a position and maybe because we're a homogeneous group in some ways. We're Christians. We're looking for Christian content and responding to it wisely and with some precision. Maybe there won't be as much of a debate on the question I've asked there, but I do want you to sharpen each other's prose. And if I were to comment about your comments on Surprised by Joy, it would simply be go deeper. Reflect more significantly on how a person is presenting themselves to a set of readers that are, 60 or 70 years distant from him. And the two questions I was especially hoping for a little more thought and engagement are the one about your reading experiences You can write more than a few lines if you wish, as I'm trying to understand your approach and the way you are attempting to engage Lewis. The second part is that I would like to have seen you reflect upon Lewis's comment, "I fell under the spell of dwarves," with a little more imaginative reach. And I'm not sure I can unpack my statement there much better than that. That it's not just he found a new kind of character to use in the storehouse for future reference, but there's something going on there about, as one of you pointed out, the fairy tale and its suitability, its medium for conveying transcendent and biblical concepts that I want you to begin to reach out to and understand a little better. So just a word to the wise, and I'm looking for some engagement with the material that's not just looking for the obvious sort of factual answer, which I hope all of you can do, but I'd like you to embed that in an ever-growing context as we learn more about Lewis, we learn more about each other. Maybe you learn more about what I'm looking for. Anyway, I would appreciate that. That's it for today. That's enough to keep you busy. Our main task this week is to get under our belt a reading of Out of the Silent Planet, and we'll be adding to that and continue to think about the relationship between each of these three novels as they build the character of Ransom. So have a great MLK Day. I'm sorry the delivery of this podcast is a little later in the day, but it's a short week, but it's a great week because we are starting the fiction of Lewis, and I predict for you a pretty rich experience in engaging it. Take care.